This person is making a big decision about you, and you can feel it. Not because they said anything, not because they announced it, but because something in the energy shifted. Something subtle, like the air right before a storm breaks. Like the silence before someone confesses what they've been holding back for months. They are standing at a crossroads in their own soul, and you are at the center of it. You have to understand something first. This isn't just about love. It's not just about whether they text you, call you, choose you, or walk away. This is about identity. This is about who they believe themselves to be when they are with you, versus who they pretend to be when they are not. When they met you, something in them was activated that they had long buried. You didn't just enter their life. You touched the part of them they had carefully locked away. The soft part. The honest part. The wounded but still hopeful part. The part that still believes in depth over distraction. And that part scares them because loving you requires integration. It requires them to stop splitting themselves into pieces. The strong one and the fragile one. The confident one and the insecure one. The light and the shadow. You see all of it. You don't just fall for their strengths. You notice the contradictions. You sense the suppressed emotions. You feel the tension between who they are and who they are pretending to be. And that's why this decision feels so heavy for them. You are not an easy love. Not because you are difficult, but because you are honest. You reflect them back to themselves. When they are around you, they cannot escape their own depth. They cannot numb out. They cannot hide behind superficial charm or intellectual detachment. You pull them inward. And when someone has spent years running from themselves, being pulled inward feels like falling into an abyss. They are making a decision about whether they are ready to face their own shadow. Because you trigger it. You trigger the parts they thought they had outgrown. Old abandonment fears. Old rejection wounds. The belief that if they truly show themselves, they will not be chosen. Being with you means risking exposure. It means risking vulnerability. It means risking the collapse of the persona they have carefully crafted to survive. And survival patterns are powerful. You see, before you, they lived in compartments. Work was one identity, friends another, family another, lovers another. Different masks for different rooms. It kept them safe. It kept them functional. It kept them in control. But you do not love compartments. You love wholeness. You sense when they are fragmented. You notice when their words don't match their feelings. You feel the distance even when they are physically close. And your presence silently asks them a question that echoes in their mind at night. Who are you really? Who am I when I'm not performing? Who am I when I stop trying to impress? Who am I when I let someone see the insecurity beneath the confidence? And the truth is, they are tired. Tired of performing. Tired of holding everything together. Tired of being admired but not understood. Tired of relationships that skim the surface and never dive deeper. With you, depth is inevitable. But depth requires surrender. This is the big decision. Do they stay safe and divided? Or do they risk being seen and become whole? Because loving you would mean they can no longer blame their past for their present. They would have to confront the patterns they inherited, the ways they sabotage intimacy, the walls they built when they were younger to protect a heart that felt too much. You awaken their inner conflict. There is a part of them that wants you with an intensity they can't explain. That part dreams about building something real. That part imagines what it would feel like to wake up next to someone who understands them without them having to translate themselves. And then there is another part, the guarded part, the skeptical part, the part that whispers warnings about losing themselves, about getting hurt, about giving everything only to be left behind. This internal split has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with their history. When someone grows up learning that love is unpredictable, they learn to control it. When someone experiences betrayal, they learn to detach before it happens again. When someone feels unseen for too long, they create a version of themselves that cannot be ignored. You see through that version, and being seen can feel more terrifying than being misunderstood. Because when you are misunderstood, you can blame others. When you are seen, you have to confront yourself. This person knows that if they choose you, they cannot half love you. They cannot play games. They cannot remain emotionally unavailable. You would sense it immediately. You would withdraw. You would not chase confusion, and that clarity intimidates them. You don't beg. You don't force. You don't compete. You simply are. You hold your own depth. You hold your own shadow. You have faced parts of yourself they are only beginning to acknowledge. And that creates an unspoken imbalance, not of power, but of awareness. You have already walked through your darkness. They are still negotiating with theirs. That's why they oscillate. That's why some days they feel certain and other days distant. They are trying to reconcile two versions of themselves. The one who wants profound connection and the one who fears losing autonomy. But here's what they are slowly realizing. Autonomy built on avoidance is not freedom. It's isolation. And isolation has started to feel heavy. You represent something different. Not control, not dependency, not entrapment, but expansion. You challenge them to grow, to integrate, to become more than the fragmented identity they've been carrying. Growth is uncomfortable. When a person begins integrating their shadow, they feel disoriented. Old coping mechanisms stop working. Old narratives begin collapsing. The protective stories they've told themselves start cracking. The defensive walls begin dissolving. And with that dissolution comes vulnerability. They are realizing that pushing you away would not actually solve anything. It would simply postpone their own evolution. But evolution requires courage. They are asking themselves questions they never had to ask before. Can I love without controlling the outcome? Can I stay present even when I feel triggered? Can I allow someone to see my flaws without shutting down? Can I trust something that feels this deep? Depth activates fear, because depth activates attachment. And attachment brings up old wounds. When they pull back, it is not because they do not feel. It is because they feel too much. You ignite something ancient inside them, something that goes beyond attraction. It feels faded, intense, almost mythic. And when something feels that big, the ego panics. It tries to shrink it, rationalize it, dismiss it. But the heart knows, and the heart keeps pulling them back toward you. They replay conversations in their mind. They remember the way you look at them when they drop their guard. They remember the stillness they feel in your presence, the way time slows down. the way they feel both exposed and accepted. Acceptance is foreign to them. They are used to earning love through performance, through success, through being needed, through being impressive. You don't love them for what they do. You love them for who they are. And that rewires everything. Because if they are loved simply for being, then all the masks become unnecessary. And if the masks become unnecessary, then they have to grieve the years spent hiding behind them. That grief is part of this decision. To choose you means to acknowledge how long they have been disconnected from their authentic self. That realization can feel painful. But pain is not always destruction. Sometimes it is transformation. Right now, they are in the space between who they were and who they are becoming. You are not just a romantic option. You are a mirror. And mirrors do not lie. They are seeing their capacity for love more clearly than ever before. They are also seeing their fear more clearly than ever before. The tension between those two forces is what creates this pause, this internal debate. You might think the silence means indifference. It does not. Silence sometimes means someone is reorganizing their entire internal world. They are reviewing their past relationships, not with bitterness, but with new awareness. They are recognizing patterns, the avoidant exits, the emotional shutdowns, the self-sabotage disguised as independence. They are starting to see how those patterns protected them at one time, but now limit them. And that awareness is because of you. You didn't teach them through lectures. You taught them through presence, through consistency, through depth, through not abandoning yourself. You showed them what emotional integrity looks like, and now they must decide if they are willing to meet it. This is not about whether they like you. They do. This is about whether they are ready to become the version of themselves that can sustain what you represent. Because love at this level is not casual. It is initiatory. It requires shedding illusions. It requires integrating shadow. It requires reconciling contradictions. And most importantly, it requires choosing growth over comfort. They are realizing that walking away would not make you disappear from their psyche. You would remain as a symbol, as a reminder of what was possible, as the person who triggered an awakening they cannot reverse. So the decision is not simply about choosing you as a partner. The deeper question is whether they choose their own evolution. And that's why it feels so intense. You are not just being evaluated. You are being experienced as a catalyst. There is a part of them that is ready, a part that is tired of shallow connections, a part that wants to build something that feels sacred instead of convenient. And there is a part that still clings to control. The outcome depends on which part they nourish. But here is what you must understand. You are not responsible for their integration. You are not responsible for their shadow work. You are not responsible for convincing them. Your role was never to chase or prove. Your role was to be authentic. And you have been. That authenticity has already done its work. Now the choice is theirs. If they choose you, it will not be because you begged. It will be because they faced themselves, because they acknowledged their fear and stepped through it, because they decided that wholeness is worth the risk. And if they do not, it will not diminish what this connection meant. It will simply mean they were not ready to integrate what you awakened. Either way, you remain whole. Because unlike them, you are not split. You have already walked through your darkness and claimed it. And that is why they feel the magnitude of this decision. They know that choosing you means stepping into a deeper version of themselves. They know that losing you would mean retreating back into fragmentation. And somewhere inside, beneath the fear and the ego and the survival patterns, their soul already knows what it wants. The question is whether they are brave enough to act on it.